Hi everyone, this is Nesreen and you're listening to Talks with Nes podcast, the first show bringing together founders and talented people from Europe, Africa and the Middle East to talk about business, technology and finance. In today's episode, I'm pleased to welcome Emna Ayadi, a test coach and software testing consultant at Sogeti in France. Emna has been active for many years in the testing community with a mission to promote and develop the testing best practices for every person who might be interested in such career. It's really nice to have you with me on the show, Emna. Welcome.
Thank you, Nesreen, for having me. I'm really pleased to share my journey being in software testing for now almost 6 or 7 years.
That's amazing. So let's start by that. How did you get to being a software testing? Sorry. How your story? What's your story and how it all began?
Um, well, um, Currently I just moved to France. The last move I did, I'm in Lille. But let's go back to my journey, even as a student, and
Yeah.
how I joined, how I was in software testing. So I studied computer science engineering. It was my childhood dream to become an engineer. And during the last 2 years, I chose finance engineering as an option. It was like few modules added to the program, so it's not that huge training on finance engineering. The basic is computer science.
Okay.
And at that time, I wanted to combine finance and IT, but I don't know what to do exactly. The only thing that I know is I'm not a big fan of writing code, so I don't like to spend my career in front of computer just coding. And I don't even know that there is a career in software testing. So my first job was like very randomly about testing mobile trading apps. They just looked for my background as I have this kind of combination between IT and finance. And this is from where my journey just began, my adventure as a software tester. And I really enjoyed since my very first month, even every single activity that the tester could do and his involvement in the development life cycle. And I also discovered that this is exactly what I wanted to do without even knowing that there is a name of a job for it. Um,
So that was
yeah,
that was actually your passion, the unhidden passion that you discovered.
yeah. This is exactly, if we can call it hidden passion, yeah. And during my career, I find some interest in this first job. That's why I'm still here in this field. So I can share some of the interest that captured me in this first job, let's say. So first, I'm a curious person and critical thinker, even in the day life. So I find that this is a good option and skill for testers. You can catch what can go wrong and think about other scenarios. Also contribute in the process to prevent issues from happening if we apply these skills as a tester. And then another thing I can share, I find it even more engaging when I see the output from my testing activities is used to help the team to decide whether we can go to production or we need to adjust first some critical findings. So I find this kind of responsibility as a tester in the team. You feel like having you contribute to make a decision, which is something good to contribute in even in the beginning of your career. And another thing that I liked that captured my interest, uh, collaborate with different team members having different backgrounds, and there are various learning opportunities you can get just by being involved in testing. Like there are technical details you can learn, there are various tools. Almost every year you hear about new tools in software testing you can deal with. a lot of functional because you are dealing with the app, testing it, even thinking from the persona of a user, a non-functional requirement as well, technical aspects. So there is a huge area that captured my interest about the product, the process of testing, and nowadays challenges how you can build the quality into the product at early stages. And well, this topic is like I can stay talking for even more, but let's sum up a little what I can add more. Along with that, there is a huge worldwide testing communities that we can learn from. We can get new perspectives, idea, and we can apply them in our journey. So those are
That's
the
that's pretty
most
cool.
important.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you have touched very important topics when it comes to software development and software testing. Because usually, if you talk to developers, they have their focus is to write good quality of code and to develop
Yeah.
applications and to develop software applications. So basically, there was for me, honestly, I was when I started my career in this field, I was a little bit shocked to see that sometimes there is a very closed vision. If you speak to a developer, they only care about having the best code. But what does the best code mean, literally? What does it mean when it comes to evaluation, or when it comes to quality, or when it comes to requirements, and how much it allows the product or the application to brings the value that we want to bring to customers, or and so on. And that's where I discovered the value of having a good software tester, or and the value of software testing in general. And I was surprised to discover that there is lots of silos in many companies between the two business, let's say, functions. Like, many companies are still operating on a level where there is the development team and there is the testing team and the quality team, and it's completely separate. How do you, what do you think about that, actually? And how do you operate when you find yourself in such context?
Well, we still find those kind of silos even nowadays when everyone talk about agile,
Yeah,
which is of course not that good. So my approach is to initiate the change, to how to see possible ways how we can bring those people together to talk about testing challenges. Even you can start just by having a coffee with them in the kitchen of the work office, and try to see their perspective. Okay, they are writing good code, but if this good code doesn't bring value to what the customer is looking for,
yeah,
maybe this is not the best option and they can do better. There are areas to improve them. So my idea here, just initiate the topics even in informal ways, try to get to know more about them, what they are doing, what is their perspective, what is their vision as a developer, and try to start small by little discussion, then maybe engage them in the retrospective, try to share what you can do, what are the things you could improve from your testing perspective, and how you can engage them. You can even pair with them early in the processes by just analyzing the requirements, the user story, and like making an example mapping workshop together,
yeah,
understand clearly, ask the good question for them. So they will think that you as a tester help them to prevent such bugs from happening. So
yeah.
step by step, if you show them the value what testing could add for them, they will appreciate it, and maybe they will get more and more involved and convinced to break those silos from themselves. And the next step, they will even ask you to for help.
To put it simply, can you explain in a very synthetic word the complexity? How would you describe the major elements that a successful tester exhibit nowadays? Like you've talked about sharing, communication. You've talked about being interested in understanding the developer's point of view, for example, and perspectives. But is there something else that can add up to the profile of a successful software tester?
Yeah, from my experience, I can mention that being a details-oriented person is very important because paying attention to details since the beginning of the development process could help in preventing bugs and see those little details even from the design and their implementation. Because if someone don't see those simple details, maybe you will not find good bugs in the platforms under development. So it's
Yeah.
important to look for details. This is one of the things I think it's important for testers to have this skill. And another thing maybe that I mentioned earlier, but I want to focus even more, being a
Yeah.
critical thinker is important because as Jerry Weinberg said, tester is the one who can see things differently. So ask good question, tackle the unknowns in your team, and try to collect those data, and from those question you can find even more information because you practice a good question asking, and it will certainly help the team in testing. And along with that, it's important for nowadays testers because every day, every month, we can hear about new tools, new technology. So for me, I consider it's very important to be a continuous learner, adapt to new technologies and tools that are available in the market, so that you can take your software to the next level and stay up to date to what's going on in the market. Well, I can add more skills maybe.
Yeah,
um,
that's actually a pretty good start.
well, maybe yeah, I don't like to take all the time talking about skills, but there are even more. Uh, in the same context, nowadays in agile teams, we hear about being a facilitator.
Yeah.
As a tester, you are not just a tester. So you try to break those silos, you try to train developers to do better testing. So we can talk about being a good facilitator and a quality advocate by coaching team members to improve their vision toward quality, by sharing testing practices, and establishing quality as a whole team approach and involve everyone to participate into that.
Based on your experience, what are the do's and don'ts that can affect a software testing process, and how to what are the best practices to avoid them, to avoid the bad ones actually?
Let me first start with what I don't appreciate in software testing in general, and maybe for I will mention 3 points that comes to my mind, and for everyone I will reflect on, let's say, the recommendation to
Yeah.
avoid these practices so that we can have a good structure in this answer. So first, I can say that monitoring testing activities and providing reports is something good. But sometimes measuring qualities by numbers of automated test cases, number of bugs found, for me, those are completely useless because they don't bring any important value to the team. You can
Yeah.
say you have a good quality product because, sorry, you can't say you have a good quality product because you have 1,000 automated tests, or I make a good performance of my testing because I find 800 bugs.
Yeah. It's not about the
So
number, actually. It's about
yeah,
the quality and the specification of the bugs.
this is exactly the point I wanted to make. And honestly, I see it in many reports, in many summaries of the testing activities. People show their work
Yeah.
with numbers of what they did. But what about their quality? Yeah, it's
The,
something very common on what testers do.
I totally agree. Actually, I've seen it a lot. There is a lot of misconceptions about choosing the right metrics to evaluate the quality of a product or of a software application. And it's unfortunately something that we never focus on so much. And I honestly feel, especially in France, that there is a lack of education about it. I've seen it a lot. Like many testers, it's not their fault. They just lack the education about how they can measure and what metrics they can use to monitor and track their scenarios and their deliverables and all of that stuff. So I totally agree with you. The easiest one is the number of automated testing, the number of bugs found. That's like
Yeah,
that's like
that's a
the
very common, and I find it a lot. That's why I wanted to share it as the first example.
yeah.
And I'm also this period working to establish a workshop regarding how to establish a good quality metrics. So coming soon.
Oh, that's very good.
um, yeah. What I can add to this um, example, or my solution, what you need to do is to reflect on outcome that could bring value to the team and involved stakeholders as well, such as focusing on possible risk and their impacts. Try to summarize this kind of information and the coverage of your testing by showing the risk and the impact. Try to make such a product coverage outline. This is something I learned recently using mind maps in an excellent way to enable visualization
Yeah.
of what you have done and to show them possible risk that they cause, why you think it's not well covered. Also, don't forget to tell critical bugs and the story behind, not just a number. It's okay. I understand that when there is a bug, it's important to mention it, but tell the story and what happened, how critical is, not just show the number.
Yeah, and what's the impact of these bugs if it's not corrected on time or if it's
Yeah.
postponed it and all of that stuff? I absolutely agree. I can't agree more. I mean, like in the beginning of my career, when I was a software developer and then when I became a system architect, it was so much frustrating to lose time because working on bugs and things that are not prioritized correctly or monitored correctly just because we lacked the right metrics to track and to monitor what we were doing and our deliverables. So I can't agree more with you, Emna, on that point. Thank you so much for bringing it here today.
Good, my pleasure. Yeah, I hope that we won't see it anymore.
Yeah, because
um,
it's actually one of the most blocking
Pillar.
pillar blocking thing, you know, when it comes to continuity, when it comes to fluidity, when it comes to quality. It's you. I mean, it doesn't bring value to anyone. It doesn't bring value to the company. It doesn't bring value to the team, and it doesn't bring value to the customer. So basically, if we don't know how we track what we're doing and what we're delivering and what we're developing, it's pointless.
Yeah, and not only the tester, but also the manager need to be aware, because if the
Yeah.
manager evaluate their testers on their responsibility based on the number of bugs or tests they do, this is not a good skill to, not a good option, not
Yeah.
so. Let's talk about the second wrong misconception that I saw. Saying a lot of people say that testing happen at the end,
Yeah.
which is completely outdated, and this is referred to what waterfall models are, or saying like it's a test phase. I don't use phase actually in the term of testing. I use testing as testing activity because testing activities there are various testing activities, and you can find a lot of them during the whole development
Yes.
process. So what I can recommend to make your testing activity continuously through the development life cycle. Referring to Janet Gregory model, there is a model that I highly recommend. It's holistic testing, where she describes testing activities that could be done during the whole development life cycle, even from stakeholders' perspective, how you can challenge them with the idea, with the question regarding the risk, make assumption, try to discover the value of the product, etc.
I don't know if you have faced this type of nonsense argument regarding this point that you're mentioning. But sometimes when you say, okay, we need to integrate testing in the whole process of developing a product, there is a common argument that some managers or some teams come up with, which is we don't have time to ask questions to stakeholders, or we don't have access to stakeholders. We don't have time to integrate because we're on a tight budget, or we're on a tight time slot, and we cannot integrate testing activities at this point of the project and all of that stuff. So how can you have you faced that, and how have you dealt with it? Sorry.
Honestly, I'm even facing it right now, and I find it a bit complicated how to deal with. So, what I did is to make more synchronization with those
Yeah.
stakeholders, involving them even without saying that I am doing testing. So I block their calendar and try to ask them the right question, have a great discussion. And recently, for example, regarding the API, the developers share with me the documentation of the API, and even the environment is not ready. So I tested it in a static manner without executing anything, and I already spotted missing requirements,
Yeah.
missing elements. So I challenged them in a meeting regarding what I was looking for and what I found. We end up the meeting. They thanked me because I gave them a new perspective, and they told me that they will take care of this. And it's great that I mentioned those kind of idea. So I think even if the team is not very involved in such kind of models, just do it and try to make it simple, not by showing them a whole strategy. Now we will
Yeah.
do this and this. So adapt it to your context. Try to look what are the area that you need to involve other people, other stakeholders, whether developers, testers, or even business client, and try to do it in a hidden way, let's say. And step by step, you will get them.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Emna, because it's really one of the it's a common issue. I mean, if you have a good intention, and I totally agree with you. Like, testing has to be a continuous activity, implementing in parallel with the development. And sometimes, like, there is this argument that comes up, and that is, we don't have access to stakeholders, we don't have time to contact them, we don't have time to share things with them, and so it's very important to try to find ways to get early feedback, actually.
Yeah, having a short feedback loop is important.
Yeah, totally. So what was your third don't that you wanted
Yeah,
to
let's
mention?
move to my third don't, which is quite related to the previous one. But yeah, let's talk about it. I saw also the separation of two roles, which are manual tester and test automation engineer.
Okay.
they use it frequently, and this is actually bring to work in silos even between the same testing teams. We will find people doing the design and the manual testing, and others do the automation only.
Okay.
The problem that the automation engineer will suffer because he will not have a full picture of what's happening before. He's just focusing on the writing the code of what the manual tester prepared. Um, well, I encourage teams to bridge this gap between both roles, because involving both of them early so that they can collaborate and explore together on ways how we can improve the quality of our finding as a team and synchronize better between each other. It's not meant that one perform the work manually and the next sprint the automator implements the manual job. This is what I saw in some organization. The collaboration is important and to stay up to date, even if there is one who master the automation
Yeah.
better than the other one. This is not a problem, but just try to get more and more synchronization between each other.
Yeah.
And I can mention a great quote by Marit. She's a legend on exploratory testing, and she said that you cannot automate well without exploring, and you cannot explore well without automating.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, both are important. And if those two persons don't communicate together, they will not make good exploration of the product.
Yeah, that really makes sense. I mean, it's like they're doing the purpose or the end goal of their activity is the same, is to validate a certain number of requirements and to get a perspective on the quality of the deliverables. So they have to. It makes it's a logic, and it makes really sense to say that they need to be synchronized and work together early on.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're very active, Emna, in testing community worldwide. You've been blogging, speaking, learning, and sharing everything you learned and your knowledge and expertise about it for a long period of time. You started in Tunisia, because we didn't mention that you have built this whole, let's say, reputation starting from the beautiful Tunisia. From what you've experienced, the people you have connected with, the books you've read, the interactions and the conferences you've participated on, what's the future of this job considering the new digital trends that are actually booming right now, such as AI, such as codeless apps, etc.?
Um, well, a lot of topics recently catch my attention. One of them is we hear more and more about quality coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as agile coaching about agile practices in general. Quality coaching is to install this testing mindset to the whole team. Now we see more and more progress toward the existence of coach at organization level, team level, and even individual level.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, this is important to run to facilitate the great environment so that everyone can give value and contribute to accelerate delivery, let's say. And also, I see more and more focus on the term quality engineering, where quality is a whole team approach, and every team member can contribute from his perspective to build quality in the product under test. So the idea here to bridge the gap and not talk about testing as we said earlier as a phase, but it's an activity. And quality engineering, it's like a new term that said that quality is in the whole product. Even if
yeah,
you don't like to say testing, you are doing quality to deliver a good quality product and work in a great comfortable process, let's say, dealing with your people in the team. And other things that I can mention we hear more and more about testing in production, where the automation is not just for one single element, but we can even automate the execution of tests in the continuous delivery pipeline, etc. We can learn from what happened in the production, and we can adapt fast to this feedback we can get from different involved stakeholders, and improve and adapt very fast to improve the quality of what we are doing. And also I saw sustainability related to agile and also testing. I'm still not expert on the topic, but I heard a lot how we can use, for example, for test data management, how we can use sustainability, a lot of topics that to work, let's say, in the green IT model. So more and more, maybe there will be sustainability applied in quality coaching. So we coach them to be more to deliver work in a sustainable way, let's say. More things we can add in artificial intelligence. The human role, for example, in the age of artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's true that there is a big progress that could help the testers become faster and more reliable, but we need to explore this as a team. So even there are people who are not very technical, they can have this mindset of human, this critical spirit, and at the same time they can use codeless tool just to bridge the gap between technical and non-technical people. We can add those codeless tool in case of need, so that we can share the same knowledge, even to make them know what automation means, etc., and having them even more involved in the team.
That's a very interesting perspective about how we can use actually new digital technologies like AI or codeless apps, codeless solutions to improve the job of quality team and testing and software testing. Actually, that's very interesting. It's the first time I hear about that.
That's
Thank you.
good.
Thank you for sharing it, Emna. What do you like about testing and agile methods? Because you've been talking a lot about those two topics, and you always couple them together. So what do you like the most about them, and how it's serving you on your daily activity?
What I like the most when talking about agile and testing, even whether I like both of them, I also like the combination. And one common thing that you can find in agile or agile testing, like-minded culture in the organization, is the ability of experiment. We talk about experimentation here. So as a team and individual, you are not obliged to follow 100% of what is presented as a process every time, but you can build your own need, adapt it to your context, experiment, and then try to learn from your experimentation and adapt it next time. Also, being in a safe environment where you feel like you are valuable, you are rewarded with what you do as an experimentation, and you find the support from the whole team members. So this is a good add-on to have this confidence in your team.
I think it's empowering, actually, what you're saying. It's like agile, being in an agile environment and working in an agile environment, an agile testing environment is empowering for the individual and for the team in general, right?
Yeah,
because you've talked about having feeling safe, being autonomous in your experimentations and all of that stuff. So it actually motivates more people to test, to learn, to innovate, and to add value to the whole team in general.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, what are the challenges that you have faced when building your community? Let's go back a little bit to the community aspect. So, Emna, you have a wonderful community online.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure, knowing that from my humble experience, I'm pretty sure that building such community was not a piece of cake. So, what were the challenges that you have faced, and and how did you manage to go beyond them and to follow your passion?
Well, the good thing is that I didn't start my community virtually. I started in person, and then we moved to virtual due to
COVID,
Corona
yeah.
period. I can start from there. One of the challenges already is moving to the online world, how to adapt your physical meetings to online meeting, because it's not the same. It's not the same activity. So how to make people more engaged when they are in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
So one of them is when I moved to online, I ran lean coffee instead of normal meetups. Maybe I will talk more about what kind of meetups I did before, but now let's focus on the challenges.
Yeah.
So when I moved to lean coffee and I involved participants to choose themselves the topics that they want to talk about, and guess what? The surprise is that more people joined because it's online. So we get benefit from being online, not just local members join, but even people across the world. We in the first meeting, I lunch. I remember we got participants from 14 countries. They are all connected at the same time, and it was reaching even more people, and we have which means that we have more idea under discussion and more fun. So this is how I overcome the challenge. Instead of making a normal meetup, I make a lean coffee at the beginning of the online move.
That's cool, because it was a smart way to break silos and to encourage people to join. It's a lean coffee, like people wants to join
Yeah,
to
yeah.
discuss in a normal and friendly way.
They just need to prepare their coffee.
Yes. And how was it the beginning, like for you? You talked about building a community, a local community, since your meetups were physical. How was the beginning for you? Because that happened in Tunisia, if I'm correct.
Yes, the beginning happens in Tunisia, and when I initiated my community, it was in 2018, and it was just after attending to my very first conference as a participant, because then I discovered about the testing communities, etc., and I was happy to run Ministry of Testing community meetup in my city, in my country, and I discovered that, well, this is also the first one in whole Africa. So
Yeah, so it
I
was in
feel so
just to,
proud.
sorry to interrupt, just to give our audience more information. So it was in Sfax, which is a city in Tunisia, right?
Right, yeah. And at the beginning, when I ran it, I don't know if I will find people interested with such thing.
Yeah.
um, the good thing is just in the first meetup when I ran it, I find people, and from my testing friends, let's say, my colleagues, people I know interested in the same challenges as I do. And they thanked me because everyone that attend tell me that they really wanted one day to have such a community for like-minded people working in the same industry, and they didn't know how to initiate it. So I did this first jump and initiated the community. And the good thing is like the first meetup was like introducing people to each other, make them talk, and add to that, I tried to make it original by bringing a game related to testing, so that they can discuss and play, learn while playing. This
Yeah.
is what I like because when I initiate the community, I wanted to make it original, not just following talk after talk and uh, bringing classic topics to the community. So my first advice I can give for people if they want to initiate their community, try to find something original to motivate your audience.
Yeah. That's very hard actually, especially with COVID that change, which like COVID changed our whole perspective of
Yeah,
community and meetups, and for some period it was on-site meetups and physical meetups, and then there was the switch towards online meetups, and everybody was connecting, joining, and now it's a bit of let's say pivoting period because sometimes now it's very
true.
challenging because I don't know, I feel like there are people are more demanding when it comes to participating in meetup. They are more expecting things, and the engagement has changed. The
Yes.
engagement challenge has changed. So basically, it's how are you dealing with that, with this dynamic?
Um, well, it's true. And also, I feel like even myself, I don't have a lot of time to do
Yeah,
all the things with the new job and the new challenges that I am taking care of. What I do, for example, in my company now, I'm also a member of the internal community. So we try to ask people for their feedback, what kind of topics they want to have, what kind of challenges they are seeking for, and we try to find facilitators that could address those challenges so that they match more their expectation. This is at least what we can do from a community level to see what people want,
and
asking
are you
them
still
for
managing
feedback
the
is
Ministry
important.
of Testing community?
Yes, but honestly, with less frequency. What I can also share this as a, maybe you can take it as an advice if you are listening and want to see how you can find time for your community. Uh, Everyone challenge is to find time for all the things that they want to achieve.
Yeah,
So what I did at the beginning of the year, I just blocked my calendar 2 or 3 times in the, let's say, first semester of the year, and I placed those schedule so that I blocked my calendar, and then I looked for the suitable meetups that I can run in this period. This is how I find the time. Even my calendar is full, but blocking time in advance is a great idea.
yeah, you know
So
that this time slot is already taking, so you're not gonna fill it with like daily activities or something new that's coming up.
yeah, absolutely. So, and also being involved in the community will take some of your personal time. So, I invite everyone that want to initiate his community to ask himself if he have some time to dedicate from his personal time to move things forward and
Yeah.
initiate those communities action. Because if you don't have time, you will cancel all the meetings and you will say that no, I don't have time and I don't have energy, so you cannot make any progress. So just initiated. Even start small, not every month, just even one per trimester, and try to get more people involved also to help you. If you are working as a team, this team is like the driving force, the community kernel, I can call it.
Yeah.
So you can help each other, exchange idea, etc.
Yeah, delegate tasks and ensure that you can bring value to the community and to the people participating in your events and meetups. So, what are your
Absolutely.
next plans or goals, Emna? What's coming next for you?
My next month, for example, I'll go to Copenhagen. I will participate at Eurostar conference.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is my very coming soon goal, and also I am I want to do more quality assessment, like process auditing regarding the level of quality at organization level in order to improve their testing processes and contribute to building quality in the organization. This is one of the challenges that I am, let's say, my new challenge after moving here to my new role. I'm working to improve my self to do those kind of assessment. They are really great experience. You can learn a lot from them, and every experience is different to do it across organization. Those are my two challenges. And another one, I'm currently developing a testing related game. It will be released soon by the end of the year, let's say around October, November with some colleagues. So I'll keep it as a surprise. Let's hope before the end of the year it will be released.
Hopefully, I'm crossing fingers for you. And
Thank you.
you have shared a lot of advices here today. Thank you so much for that. You have given a lot of tips about testing as a job, testing as a role, testing as a team spirit, about building a community and making it grow. And that's amazing. I mean, it's like, woo, the Pandora box, you know. Every time I ask you a question, there are lots of stuff coming up next. So thank you so much for that. Where can people find you, Emna? And if there is there any other advice that you want to share or add?
Um, well, First of all, let's share some advice. First, as a people, as a team, or as a person, define your why you want to do this, so that you can find the right motivation and the reason why you want it. In any topic, so that you can find your personal time and energy if you want to run a community or if you want to do other things related to testing, and also define what's the topic that you enjoy the most in your day or your work. Go deeper, try to do more researches, attend to conferences, meetups near you, look for networking opportunities with experts in your fields. Try to grow in the area that you are working, or what you want to improve your next step. And also, don't stress yourself. Everyone started without having a previous experience. Even if it's your first time, don't worry, you will find your way. Just started, have the courage, and you will, step by step, you will get what you want. Just don't give up. Be curious and continuous learner. So those are my advice if you want to start, whether your career in software testing, your community, etc. And thank you so much, Nasreen, for having me in this episode. I'm glad to share my experience and my journey. And if someone have a question or you want to reach out to me, don't hesitate to look for my Twitter. Just write Emna __, then my last name Ayadi, you will find me. And also you can find me at my on-site, my online blog, emnaayadi.com, where I share my journey and my learnings from different conferences I attend, etc.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Emna. Thank you for everything and thank you for being here with me. I just have one last question, which is specific to startups and SaaS startups specifically. We know that startups, they have a short product development roadmaps. They work under a huge amount of pressure. Things need to be fast, need to be good, and need to be, they are all the time competing against speed, against time, against budget. So have you experienced working with startups, and what's the idea that you get or the information that you get from this experience regarding how they test and how they approach testing or software testing in such context, actually?
Thank you for the question. Well, actually, startup is a bit special, the story I have with, because it was my very first job where I started testing and I was the only tester. So I can say that it was a great opportunity for me to learn because there is a deadline that you want to adjust to, and you have also to learn how to do automation, how to do testing. And I don't know anything about it before, as it was like my very first time as a software tester or a test automation engineer. So what I like the most in startup is like there is a flexibility and you can learn a lot of things. They encourage you to take, like, let's say, daring steps and to learn more. So maybe if I didn't work in this startup at the beginning, I will not be in software testing, or I don't know what will be my career, because this bring me a lot of challenges. I remember that I was like, I have to deliver something and I don't know the answer. So I asked a lot of questions in Stack Overflow. Until now, after 7 years almost, I still receive upvote to my question that I asked before.
That means that people are still facing the same challenges that you have faced when you started your
Yeah,
career. And
it seems like.
and it seems like also startups' product development environment are still struggling with the same challenges also, which is basically being very dynamic and focusing on speed, focusing on quality also at the same time, and that's a bit amount of complexity in such context. Do you recommend junior software tester or test engineer to join a startup, for example?
Well, as a first job, it
Yeah,
could be a good challenge to learn a lot of things and to see. I'd say depends on what kind of challenges they want to tackle. If they want to look for an organized way of companies, maybe they can join big companies, see how things work, but they will not experience themselves the different activities of testing or
yeah.
different challenges. So if you are kind of a dynamic person who asks the right question at the right moment, maybe it's a good time to start your career in a startup and see what learning opportunities you can get, and then move to a bigger organization, and you will find yourself more comfortable with all the development process because you have this big picture in mind built
Yeah.
because of the startups. Yeah.
And last question, what would be the advice you can give to founders or CTOs who are managing the development teams within startups? for example, for hiring the right people, for onboarding, their onboarding process, and building the best working environment for their teams, for the developers and the testers to work together in harmony on such a tight and complex environment?
Well, my advice is to provide them all what they need from learning perspective, whether they want to, I don't know, it's a book related to what they are doing, or it's a conference, it's a talk somewhere that speak about the problems they are facing. So invest in the learning of those
Yeah.
people, because they are really doing their best to deliver the good quality they could. So invest in their learning, and also I can advise to start the community within startup. Try to get everyone engaged toward quality and testing. Those are my main two advice I can give. Maybe there are others.
That's actually great, because what we see usually in the startup world and ecosystem is, every time we talk about a community, it's mainly focused on customers, clients, to sell the product or to sell the application and so on. And few startups really focus on building an internal community within their team, within their, especially when they are scaling, when you're at early stage, you only maybe 10 people. So basically, it doesn't make really sense to build a community because you are already a community. But at a scaling stage, when things start to be a little bit siloed, like there is the development team, there's the marketing team, there is the testing team. Yeah, we rarely talk about building an internal community where people can still work together in the startup spirit, so so thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for everything, Emna. It was really, really nice having you with me. I'm really happy. It was an amazing episode, and you have shared a lot of stuff, a lot of insightful stuff with us. I really hope that our audience will take full benefit of that, and I hope to see you very soon. Take care. Thank you, guys. That was Talks with Ness podcast, and catch you very soon for another episode. Take care.